Hi everybody, hope you're safe and well. Today's video is going to be about intervals, and what we learned in Guitar 1 was basically how to build a major scale. So we're going to learn the names of those intervals and then name the half steps in a chromatic scale. Chromatic just means movement by half steps. So we'll review a C major scale on the B string, and we'll name those intervals, and then we'll fill in the cracks and name the chromatic scale with all of the proper names of intervals. And again, just the definition of an interval, it's just the space between notes. We give intervals numbers, and when we have a root note, that's considered the number one of a chord and or a scale. So whenever we're playing a G chord, G is the root of that chord, and everything is measured from G by interval names. And when we have a scale, it's the same thing. If I'm in a G scale, everything is measured from G and by interval names. And also another reminder is that the numbers must match up with the letter names as they move up in sequence. So if C is the root, let's say we're in a C scale, then any type of D would be a second above that. Any type of E would be a third, any type of F would be a fourth, any type of G would be a fifth, any type of A would be a sixth, and any type of B would be a seventh. And then I'm back to what we would call the octave, 8-letter names, sequenced through all of the letter names to the 8th letter name, the octave. So if I just start with the C scale and do the spacing, to review the spacing, I'm playing on the B string, and I'm just going to play up the B string. I mean, I know that we have played the C scale in first position in the Guitar 1 class, but I want to go over and review the intervals of the scale in a linear fashion, so we can kind of see them in a line. Okay, so we have C, up a whole step to D, up a whole step to E, up a half a step to F, up a whole step to G, a whole step to a whole step to B, and that's the 12th fret on this guitar, and the 13th fret is the C octave. So just a review: whole, half, whole, half. And what we learned previously is that that is the pattern for every major scale. It doesn't matter what letter name you start on. Even a sharped or flatted letter name, you would play that sequence, whole, half, whole, half, in order to find a major scale. A reminder as well, a whole step is 2 frets, a half step is 1 fret on the guitar. So I'm going to go through, and I'm actually going to give the letter name this time and the interval name. So when I play C, I have a whole step to D, and we call that the major second. A whole step to E, the major third. F is called a perfect fourth. G is called a perfect fifth. A is a major sixth. And B is a major seventh. And then I get to the octave. Okay, one more time. C, D is the major second. E is the major third. F is the perfect fourth, G is the perfect fifth, A is the major sixth, B is the major seventh, and C is the octave. Now, I'm going to refer to the method book, the theory book method from Hal Leonard. At this point, pages 24 and 25 is where you can see some of this laid out in diagrams and in charts to refer back to. So pages 24 and 25 are basically what I'm going to get into now at this point. So you'll have noticed I called some of those intervals major, and I called some of those intervals perfect. So we have two types of families there that we're dealing with when we're talking about intervals. And when we're doing intervals within an octave, we have what we're calling simple intervals within the octave. So we have major types of intervals which can be turned into minor, major or minor. So we have to think of these as action or color notes in the scale or in the chord that we're playing. In other words, they can give a brighter major scale quality or a darker minor scale quality. The perfect fourth and fifth, and the octave is also considered a perfect interval. That's our other family. And those have supportive qualities, or we could say strong, clear qualities of support in a chord or scale without giving a major or minor sound. Okay, so they sound very much in key, but they're not going to have a major or minor quality. And the next point I should make, and we'll illustrate this now, is that when you have intervals that are called major, if you lower any of them a half a step, they become minor. Okay, so seconds, thirds, sixths, and sevenths can all be lowered to become minor intervals. And I'm talking about if you're playing them from a major scale reference point. When we raise or lower a perfect interval, we can put the octave aside here, but the fourth and fifth, we generally use the terms diminished, or you could say smaller space between the root and that interval, and augmented, a bigger space between the root and interval. And more generally, we see the fourth raised and becomes augmented fourth, and the fifth lowered, which becomes a diminished fifth. There are times when we have a sharped five and we call it an augmented fifth, and even a flat fourth, but that becomes the sound of a major third, so that's not really functional with that name, we could say. So sharped four, flat five, those actually become the same tone. Again, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves before we play those. So once again, we have two families, major and minor family, and the perfect family. And I want you to notice that when I do the scale, that the perfect intervals are in the middle. So on either side of them, we're going to find these major and minor intervals. So I'll go back to the C scale one more time. C, D is the major second, E is the major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major sixth, major seventh. That was A and B, and C being our octave. So we've got root, major second on D, major third on E, perfect fourth on F, perfect fifth on G. There's the middle of the scale. A, major sixth, major seventh on B, and the root. So I'll go and name every chromatic note now. Now this is also on your handout, your theory handout that I have sent out to you all. This is the very first scale that's named here, and it is named on C, so I'm corresponding with that. I've got C and then D flat. Now I'm not going to call that C sharp because I've moved off of the root or tonic. So that is no longer a C. There's no such thing as a sharped C or a sharped root. It becomes a second. But this is the lowered second. So D flat, we're going to call that D flat, and that's a minor second. D natural, that's a major second. E flat, notice I changed the letter name here now. I've done the minor and major interval on D. Now that's the minor interval on E. That's E flat, that's my third. Flatted third is a minor third. Major third, 2 whole steps above the root, just like our major scale, whole. So E flat's the minor third, E natural's the major third. F, perfect fourth. So there's no sharped third. It's either a major third or a minor third, and then we get to the perfect fourth. 2.5 steps above the root, okay? And then the augmented fourth, or sharped four. If I called it that, it would be an F sharp. G is the perfect fifth. Now, if I'm naming this note as a G flat, then I would call it a flatted fifth. And down the road, we'll see why there is a difference of a sharped fourth and a flatted fifth. It usually has to do with chords and how we're spelling chords or what notes are included in a chord symbol. So I'll say that again. F natural, perfect fourth. F sharp, sharped or augmented fourth. G, perfect fifth. G flat, diminished or flatted fifth. Okay, back to G. A flat, minor sixth. So there's my dark sounding sixth. Major sixth is A natural in this case. Remember, all the natural notes are in the key of C. B flat, C major, all in the key of C major. B flat, that is my flatted seventh or minor seventh. B natural, that is my major seventh right next to the root, which is the tonic or C again. So I've got root, minor second, major second, minor third, major third, perfect fourth, sharp fourth, flat five, also called a tritone, you'll hear that term. Tritone, sharp four, flat five. G is my fifth, perfect fifth, flat six or minor sixth, major sixth, flat seven or minor seven, major seven to root. I'm using both the terms flat sixth or flat third and minor sixth and minor third because you will hear both of those terms out there on videos and in books. They're interchangeable. When we talk about a flatted major or minor, a flatted major interval, it becomes minor. So if they say flat three, that's a minor third. If the text says flat seven, that's a minor seven. And you can always find those intervals if you're not sure by building a major scale on the letter name you're working on or the chord that you're working on, and building that scale, major scale, and then flatting the interval, and you'll have whatever minor interval you're looking for. So to expand on that a little bit, we do have intervals that go past the octave. We call those compound intervals. So if you've ever seen a chord symbol that says C add 9 or C11, those are actually intervals above the octave. And we will deal with that coming up soon. But we want to start with just being able to name and get an idea of how every chromatic note works. I would also really encourage you to take one of the open strings. Like we're familiar with the G scale. It has one sharp. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. Okay, that follows the whole, whole, half pattern. So I'm going to use my open G string, and I encourage you to start working on listening and ear training for each one of these intervals. So I'm going to play open G, and I'm going to play my G octave here. And then I'll play a major scale. G, A, F sharp, G. And now I'll play each one of those intervals in the half steps and name them all. And you can hear how dissonant some of these notes are. G, A flat, minor second, very dissonant. A, major second. Minor third, B flat. B, major third. Hear the brightness there? Perfect fourth. Here's the tritone. Again, very dissonant, the middle of the octave. Perfect fifth, that's the supportive note in a chord, often played as a power chord, the root in the fifth. A little out of tune there. Okay, minor sixth, in this case E flat, little dissonant. Major sixth, minor seven, and now when I get to the major seven, notice that real dissonance there because I'm right next to the root. Either side of the root, very dissonant. Minor second and major seventh. And there it is one more time. And I'll do it one last time. Root, minor second, major second. Minor third, major third. Perfect fourth, sharp four, flat five, five. Perfect fifth, minor sixth, minor seven, major seven, root. So there's your introduction to the chromatic scale. I encourage you to work on naming those intervals and take a look at the literature. And we will get to expanding on that and building different scales very soon. Have a great day.